Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brian Pillman Jr., and you're listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Take a walk around the world and keep your hands to yourself. To the point, 'cause you know I won't be listening long.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Seal of Approved Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and as you can see, I am not joined by Mike this week. Oh no, I'm joined by a man that's a fellow T here. I have TJ Wilson, former WWE Tag Team Champion, current producer in the WWE, and of course, Cat Dad Extraordinaire. TJ, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming back.
Hey, my pleasure, Tyler. How you been?
It's been good, man. It's been good. The last time we had you on, we celebrated our 100th episode.
Yeah.
And now as we've got you coming back on, we're actually nearing into our 200th episode. So you're
That's
kind of
awesome,
our
man.
good luck charm here, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad you guys keep growing and keep gaining steam. And I mean, that's half the battle is just getting out there and doing it. You know, it's more
Absolutely.
than half the battle. So hell yeah, I'm proud
Well,
of you guys.
it's a leisure of love too, because we've loved professional wrestling our entire life, much like yourself, right? And
Yeah,
we
it's fun to
get
talk
the
about it.
100%, man. And I'm looking forward to talking about it with you today. WWE is on fire right now.
Yeah,
And
man, it's been
you're
crazy.
doing some cool stuff too. I want to talk first off about Dungeon Wrestling. So I do ring announcing now at a local wrestling promotion in Ontario here, up in Barrie, Ontario. And a couple of our guys actually went down and trained with you.
Okay, yeah.
We had Vanna Black and Jax William and Rajan Husher
Yeah.
did some work with you down there. Rave reviews of how great it was. How much fun are you having with the dungeon facility going on?
Yeah, I love it. It's again, of course, it is absolutely a labor of love. But it's a cool atmosphere. It's a warehouse that has a ring in it, but it's the people that are there that makes it so special and so unique. And it's just this almost a melting pot of different wrestling personalities, ideologies, and just psychologies, and just different, almost a melting pot, and kind of bring everything together. Like we've had Moose in there from TNA, of course Dawkins and Liv and BFAB and Tahuti, a lot of WWE guys. Sean Spears has been in there. I've had and then some guys that I've trained from scratch, and just an assortment of different people, certain people that have come in that WWE have kind of sent in to have a little look, and then they've been signed since then.
Nice.
There's been a couple guys that have come down, had a little look, and not because of me, but end up now they're under contract. So it's just, I have guys now that have been in WWE, like Natty and myself, that have been in WWE for a very long time, and I have guys that are coming in that have been signed, but they don't report till January. So it's everything in there.
Yeah, I love the concept behind it too. Like, especially when you got guys like Moose and Dawkins and all them coming in, like they're established, they're fantastic stars, but it's almost like a creativity process. Like, what can we learn? What can we push ourselves? Like, it's kind of neat to see develop training like that when you're that established and good already. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and to see exactly, like, if Dawkins never came into my ring I'm going to use him always as the big example. He's there all the time, and he goes from beginning to end. He goes, and he brings a great energy there. But if he didn't come to my ring, he would still have all the success that he's had. But he likes coming because he sees the small improvements in his own work, and it's a cool like a sharpening process. It's almost like a skate sharpening machine in there, but it's for wrestling, and it's getting everybody sharp as you can possibly be for live television, where things change on the fly as it's going down. So you have to be sharp. You have to be sharp in this world.
100%. And I've got mad love for Dawkins as a fellow Cincinnati Bengals fan over here. So gotta give a
Yeah.
hooday over to Dawkins there. Uh, I gotta ask about you and your process and all of this. And you've been like really fortunate to sit under the Hart family learning tree for your whole life. You know, from Stu and Bruce and Keith and all the brothers to Brett and Jim and Davey. Like, what are some of the big takeaways, like from just being a sponge that you've learned over the years that you try to apply into when you're talking to the next up and comers?
Well, it's funny, like you say that, and like if I really think about it, like I really did, like I did train for a little while with like not like exclusively, but at one point like pretty regularly with like Keith Hart, and of course for a long time trained with like Ross and Bruce Hart. They were the ones who originally trained us when we were younger, and I spent a lot of time a little bit later with Brett and picking his brain. And of course, I spent a ton of time with Davey and a little bit with Owen. So I really did, yes, even at a really young age, and maybe some of it through reverse osmosis or something, just being so young, but like just picking up, they all have similarities, obviously, in a lot of their philosophies, but they don't all have the exact same philosophies across the board. Actually, probably none of them are exactly the same across the board, to be honest. So then I get to almost play the game of pick and choose, and I can take a little bit from here and a little bit from here. And like, I do see that point, but maybe I kind of like this one a little bit better than. So, I mean, I've been extremely fortunate that I've had the people I've been able to learn from. And then in doing that, in like under that same tree, because of Ross Hart, he was the one who made the connection with my Japanese trainer, Tokyo Joe, who his stuff was almost like if we take like almost the best of that I feel I kind of got from like the Hart family. And then Tokyo Joe's almost like putting a magnifying glass on top of that on like the sunniest day ever, and kind of just making that even more intense and taking it to this, not even to the next level, but to some other beyond level almost. And it's a hell of a process. And wrestling is a very cool thing where you don't stop learning. This thing just keeps evolving and going and going and going. And a lot of it you learn as you go. A lot of it you try to like see ahead of time, and you might be right, you might be a little off, but that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, like I said, I recently started ring announcing, and I've been very lucky. Just last week, I got to interview Gary Michael Capetta, who I love Gary Michael Capetta, right? And he was very fortunate. He told me I could send some footage to him, and he's going to critique me. And he was very open and honest, like, hey, I'll be hard on you, but like that's how you get better, right?
That's what you want, and that's what you need. That was one good thing, like the Hart family. They were always very good trainers and good teachers, but they also never sugarcoated too much or anything. And Tokyo Joe, like I said, he even magnified that. He was even more harsh and more stern. He wasn't going to sugarcoat anything. So, you know, it toughens you up, and maybe it's not always what you want to hear. Obviously, I get that. We'd all love to be told we're great at all times. It'd be awesome, but that's not
how
you're not actually going to grow. Yeah, you're not going to, and it's not, and that'd be lying to you. And it's not what you need. It's maybe what you would like, but it's not actually what you need for the long haul.
No, 100%. And you know, I love wrestling. I've loved it for my whole life, and now I look at it differently. Like standing in a ring, I watch, you know, Samantha Irvin on Raw now, and I see the little things that she does that are just phenomenal. You know, whether it's where she's standing in the ring or when she's emphasizing or changing tones of people, and you know, that's something I try to borrow too. How great has she been for the product, Samantha Irvin? Fantastic, right?
It's awesome, man. Like during the breaks and stuff, like she gets into like all the stuff that's happening in the arena, like during a commercial break on, you know, during a live Raw. Like I know there's during a break they'll play like DX music, and like she's out there singing and like giving it all she's got. Like, yeah, she brings a cool energy to the product. That's the cool thing right now. I feel like almost, you know, pretty much across the board, everybody's bringing an excited and authentic energy that you can feel. You can feel it. You can feel it. It's not manufactured. You can feel it.
It's definitely coming across on TV as well. I think it's safe to say that the year 2023 for the WWE has been one of the best years in company history. We're just a few weeks removed as we record this from the what people are calling pay-per-view of the year with Survivor Series. Let's talk a little bit about Survivor Series. You know, we had the two great War Games matches, but we had the big return of Randy Orton. How big of a boost is that for the locker room to have a guy like Randy in there, especially coming into WrestleMania season?
Well, and also like Randy, Randy's been a staple of WWE for over 20 years. Like this is and we've all like grown up, like Randy's grown up with us all, you know, whether as fans on TV or actually with the guys in the locker room. You know, I got called up in 2009, and so Randy's been here that whole time. He's been here the last 14 years. He had those last 18 months off, and he was very missed. Randy's a big part of our locker room and a big part of like when you go to TV or, you know, or a live event and you see Randy, it's just it's a sense of like, oh, okay, everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Randy's here. Like Randy's like, you know that Randy, if Randy's there, everything's good. Yeah. And it's just good. It's so great to have him back as in the locker room and on TV. Obviously, I mean, it looks incredible. The fans have obviously missed him. He's a very special, very, very special performer, Randy Orton.
100%. I'm just trying to think if anything else newsworthy happened at Survivor Series. I can't think off the top of my head there.
Gunther and Miz had a hell of a match.
They did have a hell of a match. They did. That IC title I want to talk about a little bit, but I think
it was awesome.
Maybe I'll lead in with this guy named CM Punk, I guess, made a return to the WWE. Were you surprised that this happened? Did you know that this was happening? I heard this was pretty tight-lipped from what I was reading.
No, I didn't know it was happening. Even as I like, you know, you hear the rumors or whatever, and going into I remember coming into the building that day, and I remember just thinking like, when I leave here today, if Punk is back, I will and won't be surprised. And if he's not back, I will or won't be surprised. Yeah. Like it's
100%.
You know, it's one of those things. It was like it felt there, and you know, Randy was coming back that day, so there was a different energy in the like backstage, and there was a different energy in the arena throughout the whole show. And I mean, Allstate Arena is always a great energy, but that was there was even a little bit, it was amplified a little bit more. And so it's kind of like at the end of that night, like if the return didn't happen, I don't think it wouldn't have been like it wasn't like it wouldn't have been a giant disappointment in the sense that was one reason people were excited. I thought the show was great. Randy's return, it was awesome. And then it was one of those things. It was like, and then when that music flipped and you just saw the people were like, oh my God, this is really happening. It was insane. Yeah. And again, I had no clue.
I think, like, in my opinion, from the moment that Rhea Ripley came out in that War Games match until that pay-per-view went off the air, I think was the best stuff that WWE did the entire year. I thought it was just phenomenal. You know, the Randy's return, the cash-in tease, and then Punk's music hits.
Yeah.
Like, how soon did people in the ring even know Punk was there? Like, how tight-lipped are we talking here? Because
I'm not sure when people knew or didn't know, because even like I'm not sure, but even say for example, the guys in the ring didn't know. It's not like there was any physicality happening. It just was Punk coming out to the entranceway. So I mean, in terms of like trying to get the surprise, if nobody knew, I would understand why it would be kept so tight-lipped that even the guys in the ring didn't know. Now, did they know? Honestly, I don't know. I haven't asked them. I assume that they had a clue. I had a clue of like I just said, like I had a sense of like it very much can happen. If anything I've learned in WWE is that this can happen.
Absolutely. Never say never, right?
They never say never in WWE when it comes to things like this. So I just remember thinking like, this is something in my brain that will never happen. So that tells me that it can happen in this company.
Absolutely. There's a lot of those moments this year. I want to shift gears though, and I want to talk about NXT a little bit. We saw the debut of somebody that you're pretty familiar with, Sheer, Lexus King, formerly known as
Yeah.
Brian Pillman Jr. How cool is that for you to have somebody so close to the family debuting with NXT? And what do you think of the job he's been doing so far?
Yeah, I think he's been doing a very good job. I think it's always, I think Brian's in that age and in that, and his age as a person, but also years of experience in the business. I think he's going to go through a bit of a process of really finding out who he is as a singles guy and in this business. And this first stab at it, I think, is going very well for him. But I think there's going to be a lot more layers and a lot of. I just think it's really cool that it's one of these things. It kind of reminds me a little bit. Obviously, it's a different thing, but it reminds me a little bit of like Tyler Breeze's ascension in NXT. I was there for a lot of that, and Breeze had different little variations and things before he became Tyler Breeze, and then even as Tyler Breeze, he made little modifications on the ascension, and like those NXT fans, they were there for the whole ride, and they got to experience that whole thing from the beginning on. And I kind of feel a little bit the same way with Alexis King with Lexus King here.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about like you sitting under that learning tree for all those years and just being a sponge and, probably learning things without even realizing you were learning things just by, watching Raw with Stu or a family dinner or something. Is there any advice that you could think of that you would like to give like yourself or even Lexus at this point that you didn't know 20 years ago that is in your head now?
I mean, you just have to take chances. You just have to creatively. You just have to take chances and just kind of throw things out there, and you'll figure out who you are, rather than like I held back a little bit trying to find out who I was. I should have, if I'd give myself advice, I would have thrown a lot more things and then kind of developed. And I got there, but it took me longer because I was a little bit more reserved and a little bit kind of, I guess maybe you start to worry what other people are going to think about you. But you got to kind of let that go, because when something catches fire, it doesn't matter what they think about you, because they're all going to hop on. They're all going to hop on the train then. So the quicker you get there, the better.
Absolutely. I want to stick within the Hart family here, and I have to talk about Natty. She's just incredible. The career that she has put together, she overcame some bad gimmicks at the start to championship gold to Guinness World Record holder. What is it about Natty that like she just gets it? She can do anything. She can be in any role. Tomorrow you could put the world title on her and nobody would blink an eye on it. She's working with a younger talent now. Like, do you ever just take a step back and just be like, wow, like Natty, you're pretty awesome?
Yeah, I mean, I do all the time. I hope she does. But it's much harder when you're in it. I don't wrestle anymore, so I see it a little bit differently. And I haven't been a wrestler in over 8.5 years. So I'm going to view it differently. I'm going to view her career differently than she's viewing it as she's in it. But I agree with you. I think you could put her in any role and she will excel. And it's just her work ethic is so unmatched, and it does apply to wrestling and it does apply to the in-ring, but it's in every aspect of her life. She just is very determined and a very hard worker, and just has this unmatched work ethic where like she has a hard time just like having like a nice, easy, relaxing day. Like she has to do some kind of work at all times. So that's just how she's wired, and it's brought her a lot of success. Where like these Guinness Book of World Record, like these number of matches and stuff, you can't manufacture that. You can't like do you remember when Goldberg had the streak and they tried kind of manufacturing the Sid streak, and it was of course nothing near the same because it wasn't as organic, and it wasn't, I mean, same thing. Like the only way to like as a woman, the only way to like have more matches than what Natty's had would be to actually have more matches than which is incredible. She's been on the main roster since 2008, and like her only amount of time off was recently with her nose last year, and it was a couple months, and that's in 15 years.
That's insane.
And I mean, and that's like doing all the live events all the time. Like it's gonna, like, if you want to have more matches in WWE as a woman, if you want to have more than Natty, I mean, you got to start now. You got to start young. You got to start like, and you can't get hurt throughout that time. It's tough. I don't know that how it'll take a while before it even comes close to getting touched. I feel like.
And that's also just her WWE matches too, right? Like she had a boatload of matches before the WWE. She's a machine.
Yeah, she's in the best shape of her life now. So like she's very special. She's very, very, very special.
Yeah, like that's what impresses me the most about Natty is like you look at everything that she's done, and she's done everything. A multiple-time women's champion, first woman to fight in Saudi Arabia, which is an incredible accomplishment. And you still see her out there outworking everybody in the best shape of her life. Like, where does that motivation come from for her? And what does the future hold for Natty, do you think, next year?
I don't know. She honestly, Natty can do whatever she wants to do. If she wants to wrestle another, I mean, I wouldn't put a cap on it, even 10 years. I don't know. She's in incredible shape. She understands wrestling like very few do. Like, and the funny thing is, like, our practices that we run, she loves running those practices. She loves it. So I mean, the truth is the world is whatever Natty wants it to be. So it's all hers. It's just whatever she decides to do, I guess.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Speaking of the women's division, we had the unfortunate injury of Charlotte Flair recently. That's a real bad one. It's a big blow to the locker room. But more importantly, have you talked to Charlotte at all or heard from her? Is she doing okay?
I texted her at night. I haven't heard from her. I'll have to reach out to her after this. I haven't directly heard from her, but of course it's unfortunate news, and it's not. I'm trying to think. So Charlotte got so like I tore my ACL. I actually did a little bit more. The ACL, I did everything. Almost dislocated my knee, but that was like 17 years into wrestling. And Charlotte's something like, maybe, I don't know, maybe she's been wrestling for like 12 or 13 right now.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And so it's crazy when you go for such a long period of time before you have that first kind of injury, and it teaches you a lot about yourself. And I know Charlotte, she is very durable and very, very tough. Like, she's a tough girl. So I know that she's going to be okay. And the one good, like, of course, nothing's good with an injury. There's a couple side effects, I guess, that are okay. Like, you're forced to take a little bit of time off and slow down a little bit, which is always good for all of us. It was really good for me in the end of 2012 when I tore my knee. It was very good for me to kind of slow down a touch. And the thing about, like, the difference with my neck, there was no rehab. I just had to wear the collar all the time and not move my head to let the bone grow over. With the knee, it was very different. It takes a little bit for all the work to kind of take effect, like for the patella tendon to kind of like take effect. And then after that, the rehab is kind of all on you. Like, the more work you put in, the more progress you see. So it became like a fun, I mean, not fun, but it became a challenge, because the more work I did, the more progress I saw. So, and it was hard. It was really hard. But like someone like Charlotte is gonna, I think, blast through the rehab. And I think she's gonna learn a lot about herself that maybe she didn't know already.
Absolutely. For sure.
It sucks that it has to come from injuries. It really does. But this is where the stuff comes from, though.
Yeah, it helps build. It helps you grow as well, right? 100%. I'm real curious about like your role as a producer as well. I think you guys have a fantastic group of producers there. Some of the most talented guys going. What's a day at TV like for you?
Well, I will get to the production meeting either right on time or a minute late. Usually, I'm really bad at that.
With the famous heart time, is that?
Trying to battle it. It's tough. No, I just really just have to be better at it. That's on me. But so I'll get to the production meeting, kind of go through the show, get my assignment, and then we kind of get to work and figure out what exactly we need to do. And you know, it's what I like about it is that every process is a little bit different, and all talent have a different way of how they kind of do things. And over time, you start to work with talent, and you like when I first worked with the talent for the first time, I don't really, you know, I might know some of the moves they do, but I don't really know much about them. I don't really know how they do things, how do they organize, how do they figure out what they're going to do. Everyone has, like I said, everyone has a bit of a different process. So it's start to figure out what kind of everybody does. And that's kind of the fun part for me, is figuring out who all these people are, like who they really are. And again, how they do things. And then I kind of play my role of like, with certain people, I know exactly the role I got to play to get to help put the process together, make it the most enjoyable for them, the easiest way, the quickest, the best, whatever it is, whatever it calls for that day. But it's just every match is obviously different, and every talent is a little bit different, and that's what's kind of cool. And I say it all the time about WWE. It's kind of like it's a little bit like Groundhog Day, in that I fly into a city on a Sunday. I wake up Monday, I work out, I go to the building on a Monday morning. We go over and then we're gonna have Raw that night. And there's gonna be catering. I know there's gonna be other things in there, but for sure in catering, always there will be like chicken and rice. I know that. But there's gonna be other things. So there's Groundhog Day, and then there's just little subtle differences. Oh, I'm gonna work with this person. Okay, this is how they do things. Oh, today I have these guys. Okay, this is how they kind of do things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's always kind of similar, but never exactly the same.
Do you have
Which is
certain?
fun.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, do you have like certain people that you have a similar mind frame with, that you kind of just click when you work together?
Yeah, and I think over time, either it's funny that you say that, and there's definitely cases of that, and then I wonder, as I think, like, either I start to kind of morph into a lot of their mindsets, or they start to take on some of mine, or it's probably a combination of the two. But like of course, Sasha and I work very well together. We have a lot of very similar mindsets. Bailey, Becky. I mean, I'll just start name dropping like the whole division, but like that I've worked with over the last all the ones I've worked with over the last 3 years, especially 3, 4, 5 years, that we've really gotten to work. It's such a like Nia. I know exactly how Nia works, and Nia and I work very, very well together. You know, like my wrestling style and Nia's wrestling style would be very, very different on paper. I know exactly like what works with Nia, and it's and I love working with her.
Super cool. You mentioned a name like Sasha there, and the year 2024 is getting pretty exciting. There's going to be a lot of big free agents coming up here. Guys like MJF and Okada and Deonna Purrazzo. The wrestling world in general is kind of fun right now. We're seeing like a little bit of back and forth, with like Lexis King coming to NXT, Edge going to AEW. Like, is that something that you guys are kind of like monitoring as well? Like being like, oh, like, we'd love to get this person on board. Is there any free agents coming up, I guess, that you would be excited to work with?
I mean, I always would like to work with, all of them. I'm sure the company is keeping eyes on things, but they're also keeping lips very tight,
Absolutely.
Just like the CM Punk return, But I mean, someone else I am very much looking forward to working with is Jade. Obviously, I've never worked with her. I've met her now a few times, but I've never worked with her, and I think it'll be interesting. Again, I know some moves she does, but I don't know her yet. And I mean, and again, by that I mean, like, I don't know her like as a person, but I also don't know her the wrestler yet, and I will. Like, I think that's one of my abilities for me, and that I think anyway, is that I am good at identifying who that person's trying to come across in the ring, and I'm good at helping translate that. I feel like, and but yeah, I mean, honestly, like there's who I like working with, and especially fresh talent's always cool because it just is different. And then you start to play the matching game of like, okay, working with this person. Like, for example, right now I've been working a bunch with they're dropping off a package. Right now I've been working a bunch with Kaden and Katana, and they're pretty new on the main roster. So at first I kind of know some of the things they do, but I don't know who they really are. And over these last few weeks, I've gotten to like know who they are. Still don't fully know. I don't have it fully fleshed out, but I have a decent idea. And it's like, then I start to play the game of like, okay, starting to figure that now. I wonder how they'd mesh with like, I wonder how those two would do with like Bailey and Io, who I do know very well. You know what I mean? And I start to play that in my head a little bit, and just you start to kind of play things out a little bit in your mind, and that's like the fun thing I get to do, and I get to get paid for it.
That's super cool. I don't want to talk about like AEW at all too much, but I do want to ask you about a little skit that they did this year that's kind of relevant to the Hart family. Did you happen to see when they recreated that famous Bret Hart thing with MJF, where they did the backstage vignette with the kid yelling "Bret"? Did you
Yes,
see
I did see that.
What did you think about that? Did you get a pop out of that?
Yeah, that got me because that's my childhood. That Bret yelling, that's my childhood. I did see that. That got me. That's a good one. That's a great callback because that, like I'll sometimes like there's a certain group of us like Cardona and Myers and like Dango and stuff that like Fandango. He's so funny, man. Like in FCW, for example, like so that Bret, like in FCW, we would, you'd randomly just like walk by each other and drop like a quote from like Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
You'd be like, and of course, like the famous ones, like, I don't do any tricks, I just jump.
I always like the Jake the Snake one where he was having like this heartfelt moment about just seeing his daughter, and then he just looks down and goes, "What the hell is this shit? Chocolate?" Like, why is this in here? Like,
or and then like like when Vince says like can you get me a tape? Like we'd always like we just walk by each other and drop quotes, and like it's just funny, and like we have that same kind of there's that same kind of rapport going on all the time. It just is, like so like that Bret thing is a part of those things. Like Bret, like if I say that to certain like brand, like certain people at my ring, they might not understand. Like this kid I train, he might not understand what that is from. But like myself, Myers, Cardona, Fandango, that's in our wheelhouse. That's what we say to each other at practice.
Oh, 100%. I'm always big on the how much does that guy weigh, Gorilla? Like all that stuff, right? Like, yeah, I've got a couple buddies.
Well, the crazy thing about that one is like that was one of the first tapes I had as a kid, King of the Ring 94. So like that commentary is burned in my brain. Commentary is burned in my brain. He's asking Gorilla every guy what does that guy weigh? Art Donovan.
Yeah, Gorilla was just done by the end of it, eh? Like he just ignore him. Oh, bless you, Art Donovan. Thank you for that.
Oh man, and it's funny. I think that's like the first, at least the legend. I think is like that's the first pay-per-view without Vince. So that's so funny that it's just Art that he's not there.
Oh, person. Really? Eh?
I think so. And then there's Art Donovan on commentary asking what everyone weighs over. It's just so like it, yeah, but which is fine. But the funny thing is, he wasn't asking what they'd weigh on their entrance or anything. It'd be like it'd always be at like the wildest different times of these matches. It's so funny, man.
I just remember like Mabel coming out and Art Donovan just losing his mind about, oh my God, how much does this guy weigh?
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, that's good stuff. Do you have any like guilty pleasure matches that you could just like to throw on? Like for me, I go back to like the first ever War Games match is one I like to put on, or Bulldogs against Joe and Dean Malenko, or like just kind of like Like they're just my favorites, you know. Like what do you enjoy putting on if you're
Yeah.
just laying around?
So, yeah, that's funny. So when I work out, I put on different wrestling all the time. Usually it'll be like if it's other, so like for example, Royal Rumble's coming up, so I'll be watching different Royal Rumbles and watching stuff. That process will probably start even as early as today.
Mm.
But in terms of like matches that I go back to, like the other week I watched I kept watching Survivor Series 98, the tournament, and just rewatch it, like totally different from my memory of it. I don't know that I watched it since like that event really happened.
Yeah, the Deadly Games,
Uh,
right?
Yeah, I just watch random. My guilty pleasure, I guess, is just watching random like old obviously like I do always I go back and watch like that 96 War Games where like you think Sting turned on the NWO,
Yeah.
turned on WCW. That one's cool. I don't, yeah, I guess every little while I go on YouTube and just search Koji Kanemoto and just see like if there's any new or different matches have been uploaded. He's always one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. He's someone that I learned a lot from, like on the job. I teamed with him in Japan when I was on tour there. That my first tour. I just remember being on the apron and just like watching how he moved, and just I remember it felt like there was a spotlight on him, and like no one else. I was like, can the rest of you guys like see this guy? This is insane. And I just like the way he moved and carried himself. And I just remember being like enamored with Kanemoto's work and trying to emulate that as much as I could, and trying to, without completely ripping it off. And so I'm always trying to watch his stuff and just try to find little nuances and things like that.
Absolutely. That's a good call. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think well, you know, you said it's Royal Rumble season. Like, what are some of your favorite Royal Rumble memories of all time? You were in a couple Rumbles yourself, and
Yeah.
you know, going back, and obviously you love watching the old wrestling like I do. What when you think of Royal Rumble, what pops to your mind?
Man, so like so many funny things, like well, again, we're like the way something actually played out versus like your memory. Like Royal Rumble 93, I remember finding it at the video store like shortly after it happened and renting it and like just watching it over and over and over. But I remember like Macho Man does the elbow to Yokozuna, then goes for the cover.
Yeah.
Yoko like presses him. In my mind, it was like this like clean bench press, but it's not quite that way. When you
It's so weird. That's the finish too. Like, it's like going for a pin in the Royal Rumble, like Macho Man, who's like a multi-time world champion. It's just silly.
And also like, yeah, it wasn't like it was Macho Man's first ever Royal Rumble or Royal. Like, of course, then the following year, Brett and Lex with the double elimination was
That's
unbelievable. Of course, and it's funny. Then the next year's Davey and Sean being number 1 and 2 and being there till the end, which was funny enough was here in Tampa.
That one had a deep cut with Dick Murdoch in that Rumble too. That was
yeah,
that was a random,
like the headbutt spots and
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Henry Godwin, I remember working together. I was like, this is a weird pairing.
Yeah, and then of course that's always the fun part of Rumbles. Like, and even when I'm a kid and it doesn't make sense to me, it's like Tenryu, and I was like, I don't know who Tenryu is, but I guess he wants a shot at the world championship too. So here he is. Like at the time, you know, I'm 12. I don't know who Tenryu
Yeah,
is.
me too. And then you go back and like you learn about Tenryu. You're like, holy shit! Like that's Tenryu.
Tenryu was in the Royal Rumble.
Why did Mr. Fuji hire him to take out Lex Luger? I don't understand.
It's just funny. And like I was the Royal Rumble that it's funny that that's where it is this year, or I guess next year, but Royal Rumble at Tropicana is the one where it came down to Bianca and Rhea. I love that. I love that Rumble. I thought, especially that the last two, I thought they did phenomenal. So I think, yeah, man, I just, and I guess another phenomenal Royal Rumble memory is, of course, Batista and Cena doing their version
Yeah.
of Brett and Lex, but not on purpose.
It's crazy because that worked out incredible. Like you couldn't
I
have done
watched
that
I
better.
watched it recently just to see if I was remembering it a little bit. It's crazy how like perfect it turns out, and it's not meant to happen. It's
That-
so weird.
I could just imagine the pandemonium that was going on when all that happened. Like poor Jimmy Corderas down there trying to figure out what to do. Like, oh man, Vince is all fired up coming out, tearing his quads. Like that's just an insane moment in wrestling in general.
Insane, man. Is so insane that like he ends up tearing both quads over. Oh my god. Like it's just what an insane like if you were to write out that story for like a TV show, you'd be like, it's a little far-fetched, guys.
Yeah, and here it is playing out as a total shoot. Like, what's going on here? Like,
That's like wrestling is so it's what I like. I love wrestling because it's you never know. Like you think you might know what this thing is going to turn into, and it turns into something completely different. And sometimes, even for the better.
I always love Davey's promo at the Royal Rumble '97 too, when he just yells, "I'm bizarre" for no reason at all. Like, I'm like, I love this.
So I think at the time, I think this is what I think. This is the way I remember it. Davey had some kind of talk with Jim Ross, and I think Jim Ross might have used the word bizarre, maybe almost in place of using the word attitude and like personality. I think it was something to do with like Davey talking with Jim Ross creative about something, and I think the word bizarre got used, but I think it was maybe in terms of like attitude or something. So then it's funny that Davey said that in that Rumble and that aired is hilarious. But like at that time, he was saying that like in real life all the time. He's like, I can do this because I'm bizarre. And like, it became just this inside joke. He was saying at the house for like a couple of months, and happened to be that he said it in the Rumble and that it aired, and like people still bring it up once in a while. And I think they don't know what it's really from.
He's probably just trying to make Owen laugh with a promo or something.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's amazing. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
You've been great with your time. If you're all right, I'd just love to ask you a couple more questions.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
You mentioned that IC title match at Survivor Series with Gunter and The Miz, and what a year Gunter has had. He's doing things with that IC title. He's the longest reigning champion now. Like, can you just kind of take a step back and tell me a little bit about the year of Gunter and just from you watching it at that close of a bird's eye view?
Yeah, and what's kind of cool in a weird way is because I work like almost exclusively with the women. Like I haven't really worked with Gunther in the sense like that, and so I get what I was saying in the cool way. In the cool way, I get to kind of watch his matches a little bit more as a fan, and his matches are of that caliber that it allows me to become a fan and just sit back and enjoy and just appreciate the art of what's going on. Like that triple threat at WrestleMania was incredible. The match with Sheamus in Cardiff, incredible. How many people did they say were announced for that Cardiff show?
There's probably 50 or 60, I would say, right?
Going crazy watching these two guys just fight. And I kept saying, I said, damn, this and Drew's of that same ilk too, obviously. But I was like, damn, this is the guy Sheamus been waiting for like a decade to
100%.
Same kind of energy. This past week on Raw, I didn't see all the match with Miz because I had segments before and after it. I caught glimpses of it. I have it on my DVR. I'm going to watch it today or tomorrow. But I know it was incredible. I heard it was incredible, and the Survivor Series match was insane. Gunther's on a hell of a roll. He's what I think, and this is what's cool. And I don't know how people see it or don't see it, but maybe initially when Gunther got the Intercontinental title, it might have been like when he wins it. Maybe it's a little bit at first. It's a little bit of the title making the man. But I think as time has gone on, it's now the man making the title.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Gunther's excelling. He is excelling at that. The
I get,
performance at Rumble last year.
yeah, oh,
Unbelievable.
incredible, right? He's got to be one of the favorites again going in this year. And, I get like the vibes with him now of what I felt when I was watching Brett and Sean with the IC title. Like it's like you're watching their coming out party, like getting ready
You're
for
right.
main event status, right?
I have goosebumps literally from you just saying that. I
Yeah,
literally
like
national goosebumps. It's so true. You're absolutely right. I didn't realize that. I mean, I know that there's obviously you don't need to know too. It's pretty obvious that there's going to be that Gunther's in store for big things in his future in this business. It's kind of undeniable, but I didn't actually look at it like that, and I think that's a hell of an observation.
yeah, it's just like just watching him this last year. Like it's like I feel like he's hit his Bret Hart Survivor or SummerSlam '92 vibe, where it's like, okay, like it's time.
Yeah,
Like
this past year has kind of been his like SummerSlam '91 to SummerSlam '92 of Bret's, right? Like
yeah,
that was a big leap. Oh, SummerSlam. I was because like the Roddy Piper match.
yeah, Piper at Mania 8 there and perfect, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like that, and then from SummerSlam to SummerSlam. Yeah, I mean that's a hell of a run by Bret. So,
Right.
yeah, man, that's a great comparison.
Yeah,
That's a great in terms of the growth and that you're starting to see it. Like, okay, because I feel like I remember as a fan at the time. So once Bret won the world title, just because it was so different. Once he won it, to me anyway, I was like, oh, okay, it is possible Shawn Michaels can win this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I almost like until Bret did that, I didn't really kind of see them as that. It just, and at that point, I'm a new fan, by the way, so I'm not like I didn't know really what the hell I was watching, but kind of like once I saw Bret almost like kick that door, and then I was like, oh, Shawn can, and so like you're starting to. That's a great comparison of Gunther to like that Bret and Shawn in '92 because. I mean, yeah, he's definitely going to be knocking on some world champions' doors pretty soon.
100%. I'm all for Cody finishing the story, but Gunther and Roman is definitely tugging at me a little bit too. I'd love to see that.
Man, like just as a fan, like fantasy booking, you can come up with like maybe not 10, but maybe close to 10, like very believable, conceivable matches for like Gunther at WrestleMania.
100%. Maybe not for WrestleMania for me on this one, but I'd love to see Gunther and Jey Uso get in there as well. Because I think Jey Uso is also kind of at this point where he's really starting to break through again. And if he were to get a big win over anyone who beats Gunther now, like it's going to be huge for their career because of what he's done. And I think, putting that IC title on Jey Uso right now, I think it's gonna like elevate him and start his, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart thing as well, because he's knocking at the door too.
I agree. I've been fans of the Usos from the very beginning. I love both of them. They're amazing. Damn, man. Here's another funny thing about Gunther. He has a very physical style, obviously, but so usually, well, maybe always. His opponent usually will try to match that physicality. But the cool thing is like then when Gunther moves on to what his next challenge or whatever, like that change in that guy that he just worked with, it doesn't just go away. Like they kind of keep a little bit more of that physical edge. And I'm starting to see like a lot of our guys having like that a lot of like that physicality to them where I mean you go, That one looked in there.
Yeah, it's like he's bringing out a different side to people right now, right? Like they know I have to up my game if I'm getting in there with this guy.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then they keep it. Like Miz has been on a roll. It wasn't just he didn't just have like those two Gunther matches. He also like he did the 6-man tag against Imperium, and he had that same intense. Like he just it's so awesome to see.
Miz is another guy I put like right with Natty. Like they're just they like you know what I mean. If I were to start a company, like I would want people like Miz and Natty on my roster 1,000,000%. Because in the ring they're fantastic, but PR wise they're incredibly well spoken. They represent you right 100%. I think Miz is definitely grossly I'm not even gonna use the word underrated because I think he's appreciated, but like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like he's
Yeah,
just like that
dude,
guy you want.
I think both of them, and like Michael Cole is also kind of like this a little bit to me. They're the types of people where like, and their careers are of that ilk that I think more people are going to appreciate it, their careers in the when they're over, looking back on it, than maybe in the moment, if that makes like
100%.
I kind of think, at least this is what I think. I kind of think like Cena is kind of like that right now. Like whenever he comes back, it's not like the half cheering, half booing anymore. It's like, oh, okay, like, oh, we appreciate everything this guy did over those
Yeah.
15 as the guy.
100%.
We were before, but like, okay, now it's a different time, and like, oh, you know what, man, that guy was pretty awesome. He worked his ass off. He's pretty awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think people take a step back and they see, especially the work he's done the last couple of years when he periodically pops up. He's really like given the rub to a lot of people, Solo Siaki and Roman he's worked a lot with, and Austin Theory. Like it's nice to see that one of the biggest stars in the history of the company giving back and working with that younger talent.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had anything. I've never had any kind of bad interaction with Cena ever. We've always gotten along. I last saw him in at Crown Jewel. He was same as always. I always say this about him. He's like insanely respectful to me. He always has been. And I can't say otherwise because it'd be a lie. So he's always been like overly respectful to me. Always, like, even like I wrestled him once, like in a practice, but like him coming back from injury at the warehouse in FCW in like 2007. Like he was cool to me then. He's always been very, very good to me. So I can never say anything but good things about John.
Yeah, he's definitely got to be on the Mount Rushmore of WWE, right? Like
Just
I think first ballot.
just a maniac, dude. Like he works so hard, and again, like, whether luck or whatever, but stayed fairly injury free for like. I know he tore his pec and he had a neck injury, but that's in like a 15-year window.
Yeah, and you talked about great Royal Rumble moments we talked about earlier too when he came back from that pec injury.
Woo!
Like,
That was
yeah,
nuts.
that was wild.
That was so nuts because that was at the peak of like booing him, and like MSG got tricked for a second and they cheered him, and then they like got us, and then they booed.
I love that. Yeah, because like his music hit and everyone lost their mind. And then when he
Dude.
walked out, like more into where people could see him, they're like, "Oh, boo this guy!" I was like, MSG, and that's a tough crowd to get. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's like we got you, MSG.
that was awesome, man.
I didn't think anything would beat Piper and Snuka in the ring at that Royal Rumble, and then Cena did that, and I was like, "All right, that was pretty cool." That's a
Yeah,
good Rumble.
you're right. That was awesome. I remember I'm in FCW. I remember we were watching that at this. That's so funny. You just have funny memories of like where, and that's the thing. Like I remember where I was watching Cena, that surprise. I remember where I was watching that.
Yeah, I have triggered memories of stuff like that, like with Taker and the Streak. I remember I was living up in Sudbury at the time, and the match came on. I had a bunch of people over I hadn't seen in a long time, and we're like, oh yeah, Undertaker's fighting at WrestleMania. He's gonna win. So we're like watching the match, but not fully.
Yeah.
And then we all had that oh shit moment. It's like, what? Like,
Man, the way I remember it, I have a great version. I was sitting in the production office, but at WrestleMania production office is this giant room or multiple rooms kind of connected. But anyway, I was sitting there watching it with Brett, just Brett and I watching this monitor. And I remember Brock ends the streak, and Brett and I kind of looked at each other, and this how. I know that obviously there are a lot of people that are probably mad that happened, and I understand. It's okay to be mad about it. That's their take on it, and it's okay. But the fact it got everybody. I remember Brett looked at me, and we like kind of looked at each other, and Brett was like, almost kind of was like, was that supposed to happen? So like, he's been in the business, 40 years, or it's just was funny. Buddy, man.
Oh, that's amazing. TJ, you've been great with your time. I've got just two questions real quick for you here. I gotta ask you about Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley and the whole Judgment Day as a whole. Like, for how like early in Dominic's career is. Like, how impressed are you by the things that he's doing? That guy's a heat magnet.
I text Ray a few weeks ago. Just that Dom is probably my favorite guy to watch right now. In the sense that, again, like I kind of said about Tyler Breeze, and a little bit similar to like 2002 Randy Orton, and now we're here in 2023 with Randy, and we've all watched this evolution of Randy and this growth, and the version of Randy in 2023 is very different than the one in 2002, but it's the same person. It's just this evolution, and like in the last 3 years, the growth and evolution of Dom has been wild, and just seeing like the little subtle things that he's picking up and that he's understanding at a young age and being very young in this business. But I text Ray. I just said I can't believe how much he improves, like almost weekly, and he's so fun to watch. He's a funny kid. He has he's literally he's a great person. I love Judgment Day. I think they're doing awesome. Just like you said earlier, like I thought War Games was great, and just like you said, Rhea and the tease, and just like there were so many moving parts and things going on. It was really awesome, and it's in the Judgment Day. It's like they have such a cool dynamic of things, and even like this past week with like Truth and with our Truth, and then it like it keeps it a little bit fresh, and
100%.
and Priest still has that briefcase, so like there's so many things in play. I don't know that we've seen I don't think Judgment Day's peaked yet.
100%.
I don't. They might not even be quite close, because like Judgment Day might not peak until like the Rhea Dom thing. You know what I mean? Like there's so many elements. There's the JD Finn relationship, and does JD get along with the other guy? It's just there's so much stuff going on that it's interesting to watch and kind of see how it all shakes out and falls out.
Well, it's definitely safe to say that the year 2024 is looking incredibly promising so far as we come into Royal Rumble season, WrestleMania season. It's always an exciting time. Last question I like to ask everybody. I always like to ask, when you look back at everything that you've done in your career, what's something that just personally makes you smile? Just a moment for you. It could be a backstage moment. It could be a match you had. Just something that makes you happy. That.
I mean, it's funny. I have a lot of really cool moments. Well, I had a lot of fun moments as a talent, but a lot of my moments as a producer, I feel like mean the most to me. The reaction backstage after Sasha and Bianca at WrestleMania was pretty amazing. Obviously it's not the same as WrestleMania, but when Natty and Tamina won the tag titles, it personally meant so much to me. Just the Natty and Tamina story and the backstory and stuff, and and Tamina just persevering meant a lot to me. But like my biggest moments, honestly, are, I guess when you break it down, it's really watching people achieve their dreams. Like Liv winning the women's championship. I mean, she came back. She was like so excited, so ecstatic. Crying, laughing, is every emotion. Is awesome. So literally just being and same with like Becky at winning at WrestleMania 35. It's just being there, being a very small piece, but being there to see people achieve their dreams or even bigger than their dreams. That's by far meant the most to me, and there's really no second place.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love to hear that. TJ, you've been incredible with your time. Please
no problem.
Please send the best to Natty for us. We and the entire WWE family. Thank you so much for joining us today on behalf that you've been counted out.
Hell yeah.